Tonight on Flip TV, a dramatic escalation in international politics. Former US Vice President Kamala Harris has issued a blistering critique of President Donald Trump's military operation in Venezuela, calling it unlawful and unwise with dangerous implications for security, stability, American priorities, and global alliances. A US-led attack on Venezuela on January 3, 2026 unleashed explosions in Caracas and across several states, targeting military and civilian infrastructure in an unprecedented intervention in Latin America. Trump later confirmed that the operation resulted in the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife Celia Flores, flown to the United States to face drug and arms indictments unsealed by federal prosecutors in New York. In this report, we break down what Harris said and why it matters, how Trump justified the strike, the global reaction from allies and adversaries, the legal and geopolitical debates, what this means for Nigeria, Africa, and international order. Early on January 3rd, powerful explosions rocked Caracas and other Venezuela regions, signaling the start of US strikes. Venezuelan authorities confirmed multiple impacts, prompting emergency declarations and widespread alarm. President Trump described the mission as a large-scale effort to address threats from the Maduro regime, including alleged drug trafficking and regional destabilization, stressing that U.S. forces suffered no casualties or equipment loss. Trump claimed U.S. Special Operation Units, including elite element, located Maduro and his wife, who were then taken into U.S. custody. According to General Pam Bondi, confirmed indictment linking Maduro to long-running narcotics and weapon charges. Trump also asserted that the United States would run Venezuela temporarily until a safe, proper, and judicious transition could occur, a stance that has set off intense debate both domestically and internationally. In a detailed statement on X, former Vice President Harris sharply rebuked Trump's operation, calling it both unlawful and unwise. She acknowledged Maduro's brutal reputation, but argued that intervention does not make America safer, stronger, or more affordable. Harris warned the action lacks clear legal authority. There is no congressional approval underpinning the strike. It could destabilize the region and put U.S. troops at risk. It diverts attention from pressing domestic issues. It appears motivated by oil, geopolitical ambition more than security interests. Our critics echoes broader concerns about past U.S. interventions that promised stability but ultimately bred chaos, a narrative many observers recall from conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. After Maduro's capture, Maduro was brought to New York, where he is scheduled to be arraigned on multiple federal charges, including narco-terrorism and cocaine importation conspiracy in Southern District of New York, U.S. Courts have charged him alongside his wife and senior aides. Legal experts questions the international legal grounding of transporting a foreign head of state into U.S. criminal jurisdiction without United Nations Security Council authorization. Venezuela concept, a clear claim of imminent self-defense under international law, Reuters. The debate has already reached the United Nations, with Secretary General Antonio Guterres voicing alarm over potential violations of norms protecting state sovereignty and immunity of head of state, principle enshrined in the UN Charter. Reactions to the U.S. operation have been starkly polarized. Latin American governments, including Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Mexico, and Spain, issued a joint statement condemning U.S. actions as a dangerous precedent that endangers regional peace and violates international law. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva called the military strike an unacceptable line crossed and urged the UN to respond decisively. Intervention as a blatant use of force, China condemned the intervention as a blatant use of force and demanded Maduro's release, underscoring deep concerns about sovereignty violations. Russia's foreign ministry also denounced the action as armed aggression, while the European Union urged respect for law and a peaceful political transition. Within the United States, Republican lawmakers have been more supportive, describing the operation as a victory against the dictator, while Democrats echoing Harris have criticized both legality and strategic wisdom. International law experts have questioned the legitimacy of the U.S. mission without a UN mandate or clear defensive jurisdiction. The operation may represent a significant breach of the UN Charter prohibition on the use of force against sovereign states. Critics argue that even if Maduro is accused of criminal conduct, the norm protecting heads of state immunity should not be lightly set aside, and that forcibly removing him without international oversight could undermine decades of diplomatic restraint. This dispute raises fundamental questions about how international justice is pursued when allegations intersect with geopolitical power plays. So what does this mean for Nigeria and Africa? Nigeria's view on sovereignty. Nigeria has long dealt with its own security challenges, from terrorism to banditry, and attempts by foreign powers to intervene are often met with scrutiny. A dramatic unilateral action like this challenges how African states perceive U.S. support in counter-terrorism. Is it rooted in partnership, or is it a hegemonic agenda cloaked in security language? African governments must watch closely. With this embodying more unilateral military actions, could similar logic be applied to African leaders branded as security threats? How will global powers rivalries influence foreign investment, defense cooperation, and regional stability? Harris' critique, emphasizing domestic stability, democratic bonds, and rule of law, resonates in Nigeria and elsewhere in Africa, where leaders face similar pressure to balance security needs with sovereignty protections. In a world where issues of counterterrorism, energy security, and great power rivalry converge, the Venezuela crisis may be a bellwether for Africa's strategy decisions in the decade ahead. This is Flip TV.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do it for that. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.